Why super empaths are the only ones who can break the dismissive avoidance cycle. There's a reason why dismissive avoidants keep running the same emotional script over and over again. The push and pull, the disappearing acts, the emotional coldness, it all repeats like a song stuck on loop. But every once in a while, something disrupts that rhythm. Someone comes along who doesn't play by their rules, who doesn't crumble at their distance, and who reflects back to them everything they've been avoiding within themselves. That person is the super empath. The super empath doesn't just love deeply, they see deeply. And that's exactly what makes them the only ones capable of breaking the dismissive avoidance cycle. To understand why, we need to look inside the mind of a dismissive avoidant. These are people who learned early in life that love is unreliable, that vulnerability equals danger. Maybe they had parents who praised their independence but punished their emotions. They were taught, sometimes without words, that needing others is weak. So they grew up to build walls instead of bridges. Walls made of control, logic, and detachment. They crave connection, but the moment it starts feeling too real, they retreat. To them, intimacy feels like losing oxygen. And here's the tragic part. They don't even realize they're doing it. Their distance isn't planned. It's programmed. It's how they survive love. Enter the super empath, someone who feels everything in high definition. While most people might get frustrated or give up on an avoidance coldness, the super empath understands it. They sense the fear beneath the calm, the wounds hidden behind the arrogance, the loneliness under the silence. The super empath's gift is emotional X-ray vision, but this gift can also feel like a curse because it pulls them toward people they can heal. And in that magnetic pull, they often find themselves dancing with the dismissive avoidant, the very person who resists being healed the most. In the beginning, it's intoxicating. The avoidant feels safe with the super empath because they don't demand too much too fast. They feel seen without being pressured. The super empath provides warmth, patience, and understanding. Things the avoidant secretly craves but can't ask for. But then, as the bond deepens, the avoidant's old fear returns. What if they get too close? What if I lose control? What if they see the real me and walk away? So they pull back. They withdraw, criticize, or ghost. To them, it's protection. But to the empath, it feels like emotional abandonment. And this is where most relationships break, but not this one. The super empath doesn't chase like the others. They feel the urge to chase, that burning desire to fix things, to explain, to bring back harmony. But they've learned through pain that you can't heal someone by losing yourself. Instead, they do something that utterly confuses the avoidant. They stop. They stop explaining. They stop overgiving. They stop proving their worth. They pull their energy back with quiet power. And for the dismissive avoidant, this is earth-shattering. Because for the first time, the dynamic they're used to, being the one in control, is broken. You see, the avoidant's whole emotional system relies on predictable roles. They play the distant one, the other plays the pursuer. That tension keeps them safe. But when the super empath steps out of that script and withdraws with strength instead of pain, the avoidant's sense of control begins to crumble. Suddenly, they're the one left wondering. They start thinking, why aren't they chasing me? Did I actually lose them? And that confusion triggers something deeper. The very fear they've spent their whole life avoiding, the fear of being unloved, unseen, and replaceable. But it's not just about reversing roles. The reason the super empath can break the cycle is because of their awareness. They operate from consciousness, not from fear. They can see both, the avoidance wounds and their own. They recognize that while they may want to help the avoidant heal, they're also being invited to heal themselves. Their need to rescue, to fix, to be the safe one. In other words, the empath starts realizing that breaking the avoidance cycle starts with breaking their own. And that shift changes everything. When the empath steps into that self-awareness, they stop taking the avoidance distance personally. They no longer internalize rejection as, I'm not enough. Instead, they see it as a reflection of the avoidance fear, not their own inadequacy. This emotional detachment, not cold but calm, creates a mirror effect. The avoidant sees someone who refuses to play emotional ping pong, someone who won't chase or beg, yet doesn't hate them either. That emotional neutrality destabilizes the avoidance defense mechanisms. Because now, the empath represents something the avoidant has never experienced before. Love without control, connection without pressure, and distance without punishment. This is when the cycle truly starts to break. The avoidant begins to feel something unfamiliar. Accountability. Without chaos to hide behind, they start noticing their own avoidance patterns. They start questioning, why do I always run when things get close? Why does safety feel boring and chaos feel alive? And while not every avoidant transforms, many don't, those who do often begin their awakening because of a super empath who refused to lose their power. The empath's strength forces the avoidant to confront the truth. You can't feel truly safe in love while running from yourself. But make no mistake, this process is not about fixing the avoidant. The super empath's purpose isn't to heal others at the expense of their own soul. It's to embody boundaries so clearly that it teaches others what love without control looks like. When the empath walks away with dignity, not revenge, not silence as punishment, but genuine peace, it leaves an imprint. The avoidant remembers it. They might not say it out loud, but they feel it. Because the empath's love wasn't about possession, it was about presence. And that's something a dismissive avoidant rarely experiences. The irony is that while the avoidant fears dependence, they often end up emotionally dependent on the very person who gave them freedom. The super empath becomes the benchmark, the one who saw them, loved them, and didn't collapse when they left. And deep down, the avoidant knows they may never find that kind of love again. This realization often sparks their growth, even if it happens in silence years later. For the super empath, the victory isn't about getting the avoidant back. It's about transforming the connection from a karmic cycle into a spiritual lesson. It's about saying, I see your wounds, but I choose my peace. And in doing so, they create a ripple effect, showing the avoidant what emotional maturity truly looks like. Because at the end of the day, the only force stronger than emotional avoidance is emotional awareness. And that's the super empath's superpower. So if you've ever loved a dismissive avoidant, remember this. Your empathy isn't a weakness, it's a mirror. You reflect back to them the love they've buried under years of fear. You might not see immediate results, and sometimes your role is simply to awaken them by walking away with grace. But make no mistake, no one shakes a dismissive avoidant soul like a super empath who chooses self-love over self-sacrifice. That's how the cycle finally ends. Not with confrontation, not with revenge, but with consciousness. And that's the paradox of healing. The empath doesn't break the avoidant by force. They break the cycle by evolving, by refusing to play the same emotional roles, by loving deeply yet walking away when it's time, by turning pain into awareness. They do what no one else can. They teach the avoidant what real connection feels like, even if it comes wrapped in goodbye.